Hello, fellow nurse entrepreneurs. One of the things that I've always wanted to do was always wanted to help nurses work from anywhere, pretty much have the flexibility, pretty much have their freedom so that they could do whatever they wanted to do.
Joining VP Nursing was one of the best decisions that I could have ever made. If I was to have a regret, it would be that I didn't join sooner.
If they wanted to be with their children, if they wanted to be with their families, they can do exactly what they wanted to do.
Ola is the type of person, she's not going to let you stay the same. The way she levels up her clients in every area of their lives.
I could not have imagined being a nurse with my own business, being in this space with so many amazing people, with a coach that 1,000,000% cares about what my outcome is going to be.
And so here at VP Nursing, we teach nurses how to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money, owning their own time, building profitable nurse coaching, consulting, and service-based businesses. And so now we're at the beach and we're working at the beach and we're having a great time. We're doing a brand photo shoot. It's an amazing time. So if you want to learn how to work from anywhere around the world, creating that flexibility, creating that freedom for yourself, but monetizing the knowledge that you already have, join us at VP Nursing Business Academy.
Hello, everyone. So I do have an ask before I get started, but we're going to be talking about nurses, the 10 things, and this is really for anybody, actually, the 10 things that you do not need to do if you want to be rich. Okay. So stay tuned, buckle up, take a pen and paper out. I do ask that you like and subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel. It's the Millionaire Nurse CEO channel. It's important for us to be able to get the word out to everyone, and that helps us to get the word out to everyone. So if you could like, subscribe, drop us a comment, that would help us out tremendously. So let's get into it. Y'all ready? Okay, we ready. So the number one thing that you don't need to do is don't wait for outside validation. Now, I remember when I first started the company, and I first started as I started an online group. It was called the Nurse Nurturer. And we were really just coming in order to attract people to the group. We would just ask, these generalized questions that were really fun questions to answer, right? And then we would come back with the answers. And finally, what I realized was that was not getting people to their goals. And so I decided, of course, to start the coaching business. Now, remember when I first started the coaching business, there was this young lady who was not liking what I was doing. And what she said was, you're trying to, basically, I was at the beach, because whenever we go to the beach, we always have a beachfront, whatever it is that we're having at the beach. And she was like, you're trying to attract people. You're trying to take people away from the bedside. Well, what I didn't know at that time is that whenever you are doing anything, if you don't like liver and I present liver to you, you're not going to want to eat it. It's just like chitlins, right? So these are foods that I don't like, right? If I present it, then you're not going to like it, but I'm not going to not give you the choice of having the particular thing, right? And so anyway, she didn't like it. She was like, I'm going to unfollow you. And I was like, okay, all right. And it's just like whenever you're at the bedside, right? If you're at the bedside and you want to apply for a higher position, like people, they love that validation. Don't get so caught up in the validation of others. First of all, 9 times out of 10, most of those people who are criticizing you, they're not going to be around anyway. They're not going to be in your life. They're not going to walk across the street to give you a soda if you need it. Like it doesn't matter. Like people who don't matter, right? And so don't worry about what they have to say. So I just given another example, like of someone who's pretty famous, right? So J.K. Rowling, who wrote, who was, the publisher, she was rejected 12 times. But she kept going. And this is the thing that I always say about business, because this is the one thing that you have to know. Sometimes you're going to get into business and sometimes it's going to not work that particular route. right? But if God has called you to business, let me explain something to you. Anything that God calls you to, he's going to bring you through. Everything works out together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose, period. And so I tell people all the time, like whenever you're in healthcare, like if you start an IV, try to start an IV in the patient's arm and the patient does not, they are struggling because they have poor venous access, then you're going to try to start it in their subclavian, or you're going to try to start it as a PICC line, or you're going to try to start a femoral. However it is, whatever you need to do in order to make it happen, those are the things that you are going to do. Number 2, don't let guilt stop you from wanting more, right? And so sometimes as a nurse, a lot of times what happens is we feel like that we're needed at the bedside all the time. So, we like whenever our bosses call us, well, we need you such and such. We need you here for this because we're in the middle of a major nursing shortage, right? And so what happens, instead of working on our business, and we'll be like, well, let me go in and work this shift because I want to pour into my people, right? I want to make sure that my girls are not like, they're not left stranded. And that's cool, right? However, it should not delay you working on your business. That is very much the thing. It's also the same thing whenever you go into business. Like, you can't underprice yourself. You can't underprice yourself based off of what other people think that you should be charging. Like, you've got to be very intentional about, because you have a fiduciary responsibility to your business in order for your business to grow. Because a lot of times people, especially whenever you're running a business and you're the front face of the business, people will say, well, you lack compassion because you're overpricing, which can be a thing for sure, right? But the reality is that you don't lack compassion. Your business doesn't have feelings, right? You're just making it based off of the outcomes that you have gotten for other people or help other people get, right? Because you're not working in their business, they're actually doing it, but you're coaching them, or whatever you're doing, whatever type of business it is. You're the one who's the catalyst for that thing. And so whenever you have helped people form 6 and 7 figure businesses, right, you should charge accordingly, right? So, one of the things that happened with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right, he grew up with nothing and felt guilty for outgrowing his old environments and his relationships. But when he embraced the expansion rather than apologizing for it, he built a global brand spanning fitness, film, and business, because he didn't apologize. He was unapologetic about it. Now, rule number 3, do not make decisions based off of fear. Okay. Now, sometimes, like whenever you're in leadership or whenever you're in nursing, sometimes you have these leadership positions that you're offered. Sometimes there are people that won't take those leadership positions. And the reason why they won't take those leadership positions, they say that they don't want the responsibility. And many times it's because of fear. It's because they fear that they don't have the capacity to handle it. They fear that they don't have the capacity to be able to, deal with the attitude. Because let me tell you something, it is very different whenever you're at the bedside and you're working at the bedside and you are taking care of your patients. That is very different than leadership. It's a whole different skill set. And people don't realize that a lot of times, right? They don't realize that that is something that is a thing, right? And you have to understand that once you step in that leadership role, you have to be very intentional about developing and honing in on that leadership skill, because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. A nurse business owner, as a nurse business owner, you can't keep lowering your prices, because what happens is you keep lowering your prices, your price, the investment that they're making into themselves, that's a requirement, right? You're worth more than money can buy, but it's a requirement what your rate is, right? And so you have to do that, because at the end of the day, you will likely burn out, right? Because of that fear of, well, maybe they won't buy. You have to understand how to handle objections. And that's one of the things that we teach you in our Inner Circle program and in our other program. Now, Arianna Huffington, for example, all right, collapsed from exhaustion because she spent years making fear-based decisions. She changed her mindset, and then she transformed not only her health, but she built a wellness empire, right? Number 4, do not stay in employee thinking if you want CEO outcomes. See, one of the things that you have to understand is that when you start to shifting your thinking, right? So how can I fit it in my schedule? So that's what an employee would say, right? How can I fit it in my schedule? CEO says, how can I build a system that removes me from the schedule? So I'll give an example, like whenever you're cleaning your house, for example, we'll just use that one, or going to the grocery store. The wonderful thing about, we always have these bad memories when it comes to COVID, but the one thing about COVID is that what it did is it increased the services that we get, right? So for example, if you're coming to like you need to go to the grocery store to get some things, right? You can order it. You can go and you can sit in the parking lot and get it, at whatever grocery store you're at, and then they can bring the food out to you, or you can order Instacart, or you can order like Uber Eats, DoorDash, whatever you want to do there if you don't want to go to the restaurant, right? So that takes you out of the equation. Another thing is housekeeping, right? I remember when I think I was very early on in the DNP journey. And I remember I was in this group, and the masters, these young women, they had their masters, and they were talking about getting a housekeeper. And I was like, why don't I have a housekeeper? I don't really like to clean. So I'd rather have a housekeeper. So I got a housekeeper. And so that really changed the way that I looked at things, right? So you want to lean into your highest income producing activity. You take yourself out of that. You lean into your highest income producing activity, the thing that you need to do. So instead of saying, how can I afford this $200? How can I sell a digital product, or how can I sell a product that I can now pay this person? And then you're employing other people, right? And so those are the things that you want to do. So for example, Jeff Bezos, right? So he didn't think like an employee. One of the things that he did was he built systems, processes, and leverage, right? Like a CEO. And so, for example, like instead of many people don't know this, but whenever Bezos started the company, it was a book company, right? And so what you have to understand is that it started out as a book company. And then, of course, he went on to have the Kindle, and then the Kindle app on the phones, because then if people didn't want to buy the actual Kindle, so now you have the Kindle app on your phone, so that whenever you download the book, then you can just instantly watch it on your phone. That's a systematic process of getting your clients to getting their product to them, you serving them, and you never ever having to touch your client in the process, but you're still making money. So that's a system and a process in which you can do that. And of course, payment systems. You want to make sure that you have a consistent payment system. Number 5, okay? Do not ignore the power of negotiation, right? So whenever you are at the bedside, one of the things that I didn't even realize this for years. I didn't even realize that most people, they negotiate their salaries, right? And I remember leaving the bedside, actually going to an insurance company and thinking, they negotiate their salaries. And so when I came back, I negotiated my salary. Each time that I changed positions, I negotiated my salary. So, and you want to negotiate your salary, right? And so you want to ensure that you're negotiating, like if you have a real estate deal, for example, right? You're negotiating. And some people, it depends on what that looks like. So if you're a nurse entrepreneur and like you have let's say you have a certain contract that you have, right? So I have one nurse entrepreneur. So when she started, she was doing this level of service with her clients, right? She was doing compliance services and things of that nature. Well, what happened was they decided they wanted her to come in and to teach their staff members. And when she came in to teach their staff members, that is another form, that's another layer. So she negotiated that into the contract. However, there was no scope creep because she did that as a la carte. And so she still got paid money for doing that. So negotiation is really, really key. And so Taylor Swift did this, right? Because she negotiated her contract. So she fought for ownership. This is the reason why Taylor Swift is she's so rich, right? It's because she fought for ownership of her her own music, right? And that is the reason why she is as big as she is, because ownership is the way to go. So I have something that I want to present to y'all. The Nurse CEO Conference. Listen.
Stop renewing your license just to stay broke. Every renewal season, nurses pay fees, take classes, and check boxes, but never build wealth. That license you're renewing every 2 years, it's a gold mine if you stop using it the old way. At the Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference, you'll learn how to leverage that same license to build your own business, to coach, to consult, and to create offers that bring freedom, not fatigue. And yes, you'll still earn CEUs. Comment conference below and we'll send you the details.
So go ahead, comment conference today so that we can send you the details to it. All right. So next, number 6. All right. Number 6 is don't underestimate the power of proximity. This is so important. Jim Rohn, he, was a leadership guru back in the day. And one of the things that he used to say, he's passed away now, but one of the things that he used to say is that, you're the sum total of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. That's what I say. That's not what he says. However, that's what he would say. Sometimes when nurses want to move, they're hanging out with people who are not necessarily like, they don't have really good, they want to stay complacent. They just want to work another shift. They don't want to do the things in order to advance their careers. And so you stay stuck in that same place. Even when you become a nurse entrepreneur, like you have to be very, very intentional about hanging around with people who are making more money than you are. The best thing that you can do is hang out with rich people, period, point blank in the store. Best thing. Like it literally has changed my entire life. It changed my entire thinking. It changed, like we used to have the 6-figure nurse CEO conference until I had one of my friends, Jamie. Jamie was like, well, we don't really just want to make 6 figures, because the reality is that whenever you make 6 figures in your business, then what happens is your business, like you still have, it's still like you got a lot of things to pay for, right? So you're not really making 6 figures. And even if you're making $1 million, you're not really making $1 million, right? However, you have a lot better, like margins whenever you are making $1 million as opposed to you doing things. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. So an example of that is Tyler Perry. Like whenever he wanted to become greater, he started hanging out with Oprah Winfrey. So you have to hang out with rich people. You have to hang out with rich people. You have to understand exactly what they do in order to be rich, right? At the end of the day, wealthy. People get all torn out their frame whenever you say rich, wealthy, whole lot of money. That's what I mean. Whole lot of money. All right. Now, 7. So do not overconsume information without taking action. Now, this is one of the things that is super, super important. So I tell y'all a little story. So when I was in healthcare, one of the things that, and this is, it used to be embarrassing to me. It's not embarrassing to me anymore. Okay. But one of the things that happened to me was I got demoted twice. And the reason why I got demoted from this position twice was simply because I cared about numbers more than I cared about people. Okay. And so I ended up getting demoted twice. Now, I could have went and said, well, those people that just don't like me, right? But the reality was that I knew that I was probably doing something that was not appropriate. Like I knew that there was something within me, and it was that skill change, right? You remember I said that I was a great nurse, like a clinician, like I could, patients came in, they were taken care of, they had an amazing visit most of the time with me, right? You in the ER, so you're not going to have the best day, right? But when I became a leader, that's a whole different skill set. I hadn't learned that skill set yet, right? And because I hadn't learned that skill set yet, I cared more about the numbers and, crunching those instead of caring about the people. And so what happened was I ended up getting demoted. Now, it's super, super important that you understand that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And what I did was I went out and I started reading books, and I started reading John Maxwell's book, and it's the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And one of the things that he talks about in the second law is the law of the lid. And the law of the lid said that if your your leader is at a 5, then you can go no further than a 4. If your leader is at a 7, then you can go no further than a 6. And that is the reason why your professional development, your personal development is more important. You have to work harder on yourself than you work on your job all the time. When you work harder on yourself, then that literally changes the day. But one of the things that I did do as well is that I'm very intentional about implementing what's called a 24-hour rule. So whenever I learn something within 24 hours, I'm implementing it. Typically within a few minutes, I'm implementing it, right? Because I want to make sure that I'm not moving it. So anytime, I love conferences. I will go to a conference in a hot New York second. And one of the things that I do whenever I go to the conference is I'm very intentional about taking the information that I learn from that conference. I take fierce notes. I'm taking the information that I learned from that conference and I'm going out and I'm implementing the thing. And what happens is the speed of the implementation has been the reason that I've been so successful, right? And so this is the thing, like Steve Jobs, for example. So he was successful because he consumed information and he executed relentlessly, right? Action, not knowledge, made Apple possible. And so if you've got an Apple phone, then you need to know that. All right. Rule number 8. Do not increase your lifestyle every time your income increases. Now, this is one of the things that a lot of people like, they'll get raises and then they'll go out and they'll buy, the latest, the latest car, which is completely, I'm not even going to say that. They'll buy the latest car, they'll buy the latest whatever, right? You want to ensure that you are if I'm going to invest in something, I'm going to invest in something that's going to grow my brain. I'm going to invest in something that's going to grow me personally. I'm going to invest in something that's going to grow, exponentially, like the stock market. I'll invest in things like that, right? I'm not necessarily going to go out and buy the latest, nice car, a Jaguar or whatever kind of car that you want to buy. I'm not going to do that. And the reason why is because I'm not going to upgrade my life before, while living paycheck to paycheck. And that's something that I've never done. But the one thing, and I think that I know that my lifestyle, what happened when I was first before I became in business, when I was first in nursing, is that I struggled financially, right? So we filed bankruptcy way back when. And that's the thing that really, it really, really helped me. Some people, they get upset and they're like, well, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed that I filed bankruptcy. I wasn't embarrassed. I was trying to find that information. I remember us struggling and me going to work and saying, this is what's going on at home. How do I fix this? I don't know what to do, right? And many people, they suffer in silence. They're like, well, I can't, I don't know what to do, right? You have to understand that you don't increase your lifestyle. But I didn't even know what I was doing. I think at that time I was just not being paid enough, right? But once you start getting paid enough, then don't increase your lifestyle. Even when I went from being an LPN, which I was for 10 years, to being an RN, I didn't increase my lifestyle, right? I wanted to keep it within what I knew that I needed to keep it in. And then now I will invest in some stock. You let some stocks go on sale, I'm going to invest in some stocks. I will invest in things for the business. Like my husband tells his nurse all the time, because I'm going to invest in a computer, okay? Because I love pouring back into the business and making sure that the business is running well, right? And so you want to make sure that you are doing that and going back through your business and seeing, whether you have, certain things that you could get rid of. Like at one point in time, we had a bunch of Zoom licenses, right? So now we just don't have those anymore, right? So an example of that is Keanu Reeves, who's known for keeping his lifestyle simple, right? Despite massive fame and income, his discipline has protected his wealth for decades, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing that. Rule number 9, do not underestimate the cost of staying stuck, right? So you're at the bedside and you're staying stuck for years. Let me explain this. For years, I stayed stuck. I didn't even know, I didn't even think that I wanted to go into entrepreneurship or even leadership. But once I started understanding that I could not make as much of the impact at the bedside and I needed to go into leadership in order to be able to do that, then I started moving. But that was after years. I didn't even become a manager until I was probably, a good 20 some years in, right? And then once I started, launching my business, this is a deal, is that if you don't launch it, God's going to choose somebody to launch it, right? It's going to get done because he never, his plans are going to come to fruition. So you can either do it and, because you're the one who's going to be acting out of integrity. You're the one that's going to be, doing the thing that you need to do. Now, if you are going to act out of integrity, right? Because everybody ain't like that, right? So you want to make sure that you're acting out of integrity, but also you want to make sure that you are not staying stuck. And one of the ways in which you can not stay stuck is to get a coach. And I believe that a coach needs a coach. I will always have a coach. And so you want to ensure, and of course you can join the inner circle here at the Millionaire Nurse CEO so that you can, get the coaching that you need so that you can, collapse the years, because coaching, that's what it does, is it collapses the years, right? So for example, Sarah Blakely, right? For example, she was in a sales fax machine sales job forever. And then she decided to move, right? And when she decided to move, she built Spanx, and now she's a billionaire, right? So number 10, last one, do not forget that wealth is built and not wished for. You want a better schedule. You want a better pay. You want better life balance, right? But the reality is that you're staying stuck. Like you're not implementing, you're not becoming visible, you're not, online. And people, whether it's online or whether it's out in the streets, getting your clients, whatever it looks like, right? You want to make sure that you're in front of your ideal client and forming those partners, right? Those partners that can help you do the thing that you need to do. So just today I was at the gym, and one of the guys, and we're not even in the same business, but we respect each other's business. So we were and he introduced me to this other lady who I will probably form, some type of partnership with, right? So that I can chat with her. So those are the things that you want to do, right? You want to make sure that you are doing all those things. Beyonce didn't become a global icon. One of the things that I think, I could be wrong, but I think that I heard somewhere where the reason why she had to go out on her own is because of her work ethic, because of the way that she built. And, whether you like Beyonce or not, it really doesn't matter to me. She operates in excellence, period. And so you have to understand that to move forward. So those are our 10 ways the 10 things not to do if you want to be rich. So this is Dr. V. Again, if you could do us a favor and subscribe to the channel, that would be much appreciated. Much appreciated. And you ladies and gentlemen, y'all have an amazing rest of your day. Bye-bye.